Shabbat Shalom. I must tell you that there's always a temptation to speak about the politics of this nation or what's going on in the world. The war, the government in Israel, the enemy, Hamas, the terrible instability that's being brought throughout that region, which creates so much fear and, in fact, so much darkness. But I am not a political pundit. I'm not a politician, and I know that if half of you like what I say, half of you won't like what I say. And this is a time for Dvar Torah, and there's a perfect Dvar Torah. I've learned over the years that if I spend some time with any parsha, I can find the connections between the Torah and life. It's not that they are perfect, the connections, nor is it that the parsha has some miraculous element to it. It's just inherent in its brilliance. So this is the end of the section of the Torah that deals with the 10 plagues and what our ancestors, the Hebrew slaves in Egypt, went through, and the battle between Moses and Pharaoh, or perhaps it really was a battle between Pharaoh and God. And we come to the last 3 plagues this week, and the second to last plague is the plague of darkness. If I just mentioned plagues, you know what I'm talking about because you have all sat at tens of Passover Seders over your life. There's a really interesting piece in this section about the plagues, specifically the 9th plague, which I think gives us a lot to talk about. It's the plague of darkness. And there's something that's mentioned in this plague of darkness that's worthy of our consideration. For the plague of darkness covered all of Egypt. But yet in the text it says, however, amongst the Hebrew families, there was light. So the question then obviously must be raised. How is it that the darkness covered, a thick darkness covered the entire country, and yet amongst the ancient Hebrews there was light? And the rabbis come up with a beautiful, beautiful midrash and metaphor about this. And they say the darkness was a result of the nature of the culture that the Egyptians had developed under Pharaoh, and it was a selfish culture. It was all about power, and it was all about getting what could be gotten for oneself. But the Hebrew people were living in their suffering together, and they saw each other's pain. They saw each other's challenge. They saw each other's struggles, and they cared for each other. So darkness becomes a metaphor for selfishness, and light becomes a metaphor for empathy, for caring, and for love. So in this difficult world where, in fact, we are experiencing a lot of darkness, it's important that each one of us and all of our families and our friends, our community, find those places of light, those places where we show each other love, those places where we care for each other, those places where we bring song and joy into the lives that we share. And that can be done even during difficult times. We've been in more difficult times than these, and we have persevered, and we have thrived, and we have survived and thrived. We will do that again. Shabbat Shalom. I'll look forward to seeing you in Shul.